All right, diving right in today. You bombarded us with sources about buddy taping, so we know you're ready to get into it.
Oh, yeah, the interest is definitely there.
For sure. And today we're going to tackle the what, when, how, and why of this technique.
Sounds like a plan.
And I have to say, one thing that really caught my eye,
What's that?
well, I kind of assumed buddy taping was a somewhat modern thing, but
Yeah, I get that.
turns out it goes way back.
Oh, yeah, way back. Our sources actually mention it being used in ancient civilizations.
Seriously.
Yeah. Just imagine thousands of years ago, you sprain your finger.
Ouch.
No doctors, no drugstores, just you and whatever you can find in nature.
Talk about resourceful.
That's where buddy taping comes in. They would use natural materials to basically create a splint, using a healthy finger to support the injured one.
So like leaves and stuff?
The sources don't get into specifics, but you can picture it, right?
Absolutely. Talk about a DIY medical hack.
Exactly.
Okay, so before we get too lost in the mists of time, let's back up a bit. What exactly is buddy taping in the modern sense? Like, how would you explain it to someone who's never heard of it?
Well, the basic idea is the same as it's always been. You're using the healthy digit next to the injured one as a sort of splint.
So it's like your body is providing the support.
Exactly. You're gently limiting the movement of the injured finger or toe to help it heal.
So it's not like a cast where things are totally immobile.
Right. It's more about gentle guidance and support.
Okay, that makes sense.
You're still allowing for some movement while things are healing.
So in what situations would you actually use buddy taping? Like what kinds of injuries are we talking about?
Our sources mention it being really effective for minor injuries.
Minor cuff.
Things like small fractures, sprains, and strains.
Got it.
It can even be used for dislocated fingers or toes after they've been put back into place, of course.
Right, by a doctor, obviously.
Always best to leave that part to the professionals.
For sure. So it sounds like buddy taping is all about providing that extra support to help things stay aligned and stable. Okay, so we've established that it's not for like a completely shattered finger. Right.
Definitely not. Buddy taping is more for those everyday bumps and bruises, not major trauma.
Makes sense.
Gotta know when to call in the big guns, so to speak.
Absolutely. So you mentioned this technique has been around for ages. Let's take that historical journey you talked about. What else can we uncover about the history of buddy taping?
Well, as we said, it goes back to ancient civilizations.
Right, but they weren't using modern medical tape, obviously.
No, definitely not. That's what's so fascinating to think about. They figured this technique out using whatever they could find in nature.
I mean, it makes sense.
It speaks to how intuitive this approach is.
Yeah, like our bodies are kind of designed to support themselves, right?
In a way, yeah. So fast forward a bunch of centuries,
Okay, we're zipping through time.
and with advancements in medical science, particularly in the 20th century, we start to see the introduction of adhesive tapes and more specialized cloth materials specifically designed for this purpose.
So same basic principle, but with better tools, basically.
Exactly. And now, buddy taping is a recognized medical practice used worldwide.
It's incredible to think how something so simple has stood the test of time.
Absolutely. That's what's so captivating about it. It's this beautiful blend of ancient wisdom and modern medical knowledge all rolled into one.
Okay, so we've covered the what and the historical when, but let's get to the nitty-gritty.
Let's do it.
How do you actually buddy tape? Because I have a feeling our listener is on the edge of their seat wanting to know.
Well, before we dive in, gotta add the disclaimer, right? We're not doctors here.
Of course.
So this is purely for informational purposes. If you have an actual injury, always consult a medical professional.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah,
Safety first, folks.
always. Okay, with that said, let's break down the process.
I'm all ears.
First things first, you need to align the injured digit with its healthy neighbor.
Okay, seems simple enough so far.
Make sure it's positioned naturally and comfortably, not bent at an awkward angle or anything.
Right, gotta make sure it's supported properly.
Exactly.
What's next?
The sources recommend using padding between the duvets.
Padding. Okay.
Like a little piece of gauze or cotton.
Aye.
It helps prevent skin irritation, especially if you need to keep the buddy tape on for a while.
Good point. So, now for the main event.
Yeah.
The tape. This is the part where I'd probably mess it up, to be honest.
Oh, it's not as tricky as you might think. The key is to secure the tape firmly enough to provide support, but not so tight that it cuts off circulation.
So basically, Goldilocks level of tightness.
Exactly. You should be able to feel your fingers or toes. No numbness or tingling.
Okay, so no mummifying the injury. Got it.
And don't worry, if you're a visual learner, the source you sent includes a handy visual guide so you can see exactly what we're talking about.
Pictures are always helpful. Okay, so buddy taping sounds pretty straightforward, but let's be real for a sec.
What's up?
Every medical technique, no matter how simple, has its pros and cons, right?
Absolutely.
So let's get into it.
Yep.
What are some of the big advantages of buddy taping? What makes it a good option in certain situations?
Well, as we've already touched on, it's super simple and cost-effective.
Right, no fancy equipment needed.
Exactly. You don't need any specialized materials, which is a big plus for most people, I'd say.
Totally agree, especially for folks who are all about efficiency and practicality.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
What else? What are some other advantages?
Another big one is that buddy taking allows for some movement, unlike, say, a cast.
Oh, that's a good point.
That bit of movement can actually be beneficial for healing, believe it or not.
Really?
Yeah, it helps keep the joints lubricated and prevents the muscles from weakening too much.
So a little bit of movement is actually a good thing.
Within reason, of course.
Okay, I'm learning so much already. But you know what they say?
What's that?
If it sounds too good to be true,
Uh-oh, I sense a but coming.
there's got to be a catch, right? When would you absolutely not want to use buddy taping?
You got me. You're exactly right. There are definitely situations where buddy taping is not the way to go, like we talked about before. It's not for serious injuries, complex fractures, anything that needs to be completely still.
Right, you need a doctor for that.
For sure. And another thing the sources point out is potential skin irritation,
Yeah, makes sense. Tape can do that,
especially if it's on for too long or not applied, right?
definitely. So technique is key, I guess.
Absolutely. And it's interesting because one of the sources has this table.
A table, what kind of table?
Yeah, it compares buddy taping to other ways of keeping things from moving.
Oh, like splints and casts.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it looks at things like cost, how easy it is to do it yourself, how much movement it allows, and how much support it gives.
That's pretty cool. So how does buddy taping stack up?
Well, like we said, it's the cheapest and the simplest.
Right.
Splints offer a bit more support but can be harder to put on, right? And casts, well, those keep things completely still, but you can't move at all.
Right, right. So it all comes down to the specific injury and what's needed.
Totally. Picking the right tool for the job, right?
100%. But, this is what I find so fascinating of this whole thing.
What's that?
We've talked about how old buddy taping is, how it's evolved. But why do you think it's still a thing? I mean, we've got all this advanced medical tech, but this simple technique is still going strong.
I think it really proves that sometimes the simplest solutions are the best. You know what I mean?
Keep it simple, stupid, right? Like that whole KISS principle.
Yeah, something like that.
But I feel like there's got to be more to it.
Of course. It's not just about keeping things simple. For starters, it has centuries of history behind it.
People have been doing this for like forever.
Exactly. And it works. We know it's effective for those minor injuries. Plus, let's be honest, there's a certain appeal to a method that's affordable and you can do yourself.
Yeah, in a world that's becoming more and more complicated, that's pretty refreshing.
It gives people a sense of ownership over their own health, don't you think? And speaking of which, all of this research really got me thinking about something.
Ooh, lay it on me. What's got your brain buzzing?
Well, looking at all this stuff about buddy taping, I can't help but wonder about the future of it.
What do you mean?
I mean, could this super simple technique continue to evolve? What if we see new materials or variations on the technique as our understanding of healing changes?
Whoa, like buddy taping 2.0. I love it.
And it also makes you think about all those other remedies and techniques that have been used for centuries.
Yeah, stuff that might still be relevant today.
Right. We get so focused on new tech that we forget about the wisdom of the past.
100%. There's so much we can learn from people who came before us.
And it makes you wonder what other simple yet effective solutions are out there just waiting to be rediscovered.
Now that is a thought-provoking question. I think we've given our listener plenty to consider today.
Yeah, we've covered a lot.
They now know what buddy taping is, where it came from, how it compares to other things, and why it's still relevant today.
They've even got those visual guides to look at.
Exactly. So, listener, it's over to you now. Maybe chat with your doctor if you have more questions
Or just keep exploring, stay curious.
And who knows, maybe one day you'll be the one to come up with some amazing new buddy taping innovation.
The possibilities are endless.
Absolutely. So until next time, stay curious, keep those brains engaged, and hey, if those fingers or toes need a little extra support, you know what to do.
Buddy tape to the rescue. All right, that's a wrap for today. Catch you on the next deep dive. I'm honestly a little surprised by how interesting this whole buddy taping thing turned out to be.
I know, right? It just goes to show that even something so simple can have such a fascinating history.
And I think our listeners walking away with a totally new appreciation for it.
Definitely. They now understand what it is, when they can use it, and how to even do it themselves.
Plus, they've got those visual guides we mentioned. Yeah. And hopefully they're feeling empowered to be more proactive about their own health, right?
Exactly. Knowledge is power and all that.
Couldn't agree more.
Well, on that note, dear listener, keep those brains buzzing and those questions coming. And if those fingers or toes need a little TLC, well, now you know what to do.
Buddy tape, it's a classic for a reason.
Until next time, folks, stay curious, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.
You've been listening to the Learning Podcast, a production of metaNESTA. Remember, learning is a journey, one step, one insight, one skill at a time. We'll see you next time. Keep learning, stay curious, and as always, be awesome.